Hello and welcome to Series 4, Episode 1 of Saturday Morning Nostalgia. The year is 2013 and we're covering the period from January to March of that year. So there's two main things I want to talk about. First is Gatecrash, which was a set that was released on February the 1st. And also released in that first quarter was the Duel decks Sorin versus Tibalt on March 15th. So first up we have Gatecrash, so February the 1st. It's 249 card set, 101 commons, 80 uncommons, 53 rares, 15 mythic rares. It was a large set, but the basics actually came from the Return to Ravnica set. Available in the usual sort of products, so you know, the 15, 16 booster card boosters. There's also the little 6 card booster packs. They had 5 intro packs, 2 event decks, a fat pack, and they also released a booster battle pack for the set. Themes and mechanics to watch out as I'm going through some of the cards that I pulled during that for that set are the gates, the guilds, and not surprisingly hybrid mana. So again, keywords abilities that are specific to the guilds to watch out for is Battalion in red white, Cipher, that was in blue black, Blood Rush red green, Exalt was white black, and Evolve was green blue. As with all magic sets to some degree or another, there are also some cycles to look out for, primordials, denizens, land auras, and obviously there was a mega cycle in the whole block, and that was basically the guilds. So there's a number of guild specific cards that extended across the block as a whole. And I remember again with this particular set we are focusing on 5 of the guilds. So there was 5 of the guilds in the first set. In the Return to Ravnica set, we're moving on to the other 5 now for the Gatecrash set. As I mentioned, the set had 5 intro packs on it. Boris Battalion, which was a white-red deck, Dimir Demolition, which was blue-black, Gruul Goliath red-green, Wars of Oppression white-black, and Simic Synthesis blue-green. And of course no surprise that each of those decks is going to show off the particular keyword ability of that particular guild. Also a couple of event decks, Rally and Rout, which was a white-red deck, and is it Thrive and Thrash, I think, yeah, Thrive and Thrash, which was a blue, red, green deck. Now I don't have either of those event decks. I sort of stopped buying event decks at that point. But I do have a lot of cards to go through, and I do actually have all the intro decks as well. So we've got a ton of stuff to look at under Gatecrash. So first thing I'm going to do, like I always do on these nostalgia videos, is have a look through the player's guide as a sort of jumping off point. So with the guild centric set, no surprise to see the first thing in the inside of the player's guide they're looking at is the fact that you've got guilds, and because they're 2-color guilds, you're going to get gold cards, and a lot of gold cards. So it lists out the guilds: Orzhov, Dimir, Gruul, Boros, and Simic, and gives a little bit of the, I suppose, the background to that, and what their signature traits are. A bit about the strife between the guilds, and then what they've done for each guild is they've sort of put together, I suppose, if you like, this sort of controlling body of the guild, so who rules that guild, and background story for that, a bit about the guild hall, and then a deck that highlights the mechanics and abilities that are specific to that guild. So you've got one for Orzhov, one for Dimir, Boros 1, Simic. Did I do this? Oops. Let me just do that again. I think I did Orzhov, Dimir. Oh, there we go, Gruul. That was the one I was missing. Boros and Simic. And then a couple of planeswalkers to profile in the set. So we've got Gideon Jura and Domri Raid. So again, backstory stuff. 10 coolest Gatecrash cards. Obsidian Ghost Council, Domri Raid, Stolen Identity, Experiment 1 was in the set. There's Gideon. Gore Clan Rampager, Aurelius Fury, Dimir Charm, Sunhome Guildmage, and Merciless Eviction. And there was again these sort of mega cycles, so you've got guild charm mega cycles going on as well. So with a set which is guild heavy, obviously what you're going to see is there's going to be less cards that are just mono colour, and then we're going to see a lot of gold coloured cards in the set. And what I'll do is I'll sort of flag up some of the important keywords, abilities, cards as I start to go through the rares and then the commons and uncommons that I pulled in the set. You can see at the back here we've got all of these gold cards that represent those guild factions. I particularly like the evolve mechanic actually. There's, you can do some nifty things with that. Okay, so we'll start off with the rares and the premium cards, basically the foils that I pulled. I'll sort of keep these together. Another thing that I noticed, and this was at the time I think I was unboxing these, is a lot of the foiling on this turned out really well on a lot of cards. It really highlighted some stuff like the clinging anemones. This is obviously just a common, but I don't know how well that's coming out on the camera there. But yeah, there's a particularly effective foiling. The other thing you'll notice that, as with the previous set, this thing with the watermarks, those sort of things just make it easier if you're drafting a set. It just gives you certain indicators where the card might be like a guild specific card, but it's not necessarily in guild colours. So a lot of you'll see on the mono coloured cards, what they've done is they've got these guild watermarks on them, and that sort of flags up and said, well, you know, this is a mono coloured card, but and you know, you'll see the presence of often of an appropriate mechanic on there, sorry, a keyword ability that's going to be specific to that particular guild on there. So there's a frontline medic, which was a rare in the set that had battalion on it. There's one of the primordials I think I mentioned, so there was a cycle of these. Got a mythic rare here in the form of Enter the Infinite. Another couple of foils. Again, the Sky Games one there. I'll bring this out here. You can see the foiling's pretty cool on that. Another one here. This is the crackling perimeter. See if I can catch that in the light. You'll also notice in the set there's references to the guild gates, and then you have somewhere in here, these enchantment aura cycles. So this ones that enchant land, there are a cycle of these. Another foil there, Predator's Rapport. There's a green res, Skarg Goliath, and then moving on to our two colours. So we've got Death Pact Angel, which is a mythic, Obsidian Ghost Council, so one of the legendary creatures. So you notice in each of the guilds there was a key legendary as well. What else we got? Soul Ransom, Whispering Madness, Biovisionary. Again, with the guilds you get these cycles of wizards in the guilds. Mystic Genesis in here. So the oozes was in the set, and no surprise to see that in green, blue. Boros Reckoner, Foundry Champion, Rubble Belt Raiders, and you'll see here we've got Rubble Belt Raiders, and both Boros Reckoner have hybrid mana. And then moving on to our colourless cards, so Illusionist Bracers. There's also Prophetic Prison was reprinted for the set. Obviously a handy card to have at common for fixing mana when you've got when you've got guilds in the set. Quite a nice foil there. In fact, I've got a couple of foils of these. So when it enters the battlefield you draw a card, and it's basic filtering. So you pay one generic mana and tap it, add one mana of any colour to your mana pool. And then also in the sets, and again this spanned across the Return to Ravnica and into this set, was this particular type of dual land, which in this case we have the green-blue one, which is Breeding Pool. So you notice on the land typing there, it says land, forest, island. So these can obviously be fetched up because they mention a particular land type. And as Breeding Pool enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, Breeding Pool enters the battlefield tapped. So a pretty important cycle in this set. And then the other thing that appeared, and this is something that was around at the time and had been in other sets, was these full art cards, which were, some of these turned up as door prizes and prizes at F&M. There was also a number of these, you could get them online, so there was electronic versions of these. If you bought so much on MTGO online at the store or took part in certain tournaments, they would often give these away. And you can see that the artwork sort of, you've got this thing where it's extending down into the rules text on there. Okay, so those are the rares that I've pulled and the foils. So what I'm going to do is just switch over to the commons and uncommons now. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit, and I think I might just adjust the light in the middle. That's better. Okay. Right, so we'll just go through in Wooburg order and flick through some of these so you can get a feel for the set. Okay, so we're going through alphabetically here. So we've got pulled a few aerial manoeuvres here. with this set, of course, I opened a fat pack, but then I opened all of the intro packs. So I've got, you know, effectively all the boosters in the fat pack plus all the boosters in the intro pack. So that's you know, a fair amount of cards, probably more than I might open for a set normally. So Assault Griffins in here, Basilica Guards. You can see this has got the particular guild watermark on there. Boros Elite with the Boros watermark on there. Daring Skyjack. Debtor's Pulpit. There's another one of these enchantment auras that I was mentioning. Another thing you'll see with a guild set is protection from, you know, various types of cards, in this case multicoloured cards, which is obviously relevant to a guild. Here's the Orzhov mechanic, Extort. So whenever you cast a spell, you may pay white black. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. This interesting thing with Extort, by putting it in the rules text, you create an interesting situation within Commander, actually, where it's actually possible to play Extort cards as long as the card itself, and there's no other either casting cost or activation cost outside of the reminder text. So by actually just putting this in the reminder text, even though it references white black in the reminder text, that's not relevant to the color identity of this card. So if that was in the rules text itself, here or here somewhere, before we get on to reminder, then that would make it a white black card. So in Commander, you know, you'd be limited in which decks you could play in terms of being on color. But with Extort, because it's in the reminder text, this card can be safely played in a white deck in Commander, and there's no problem there. Another, yep, same card. Night Watch. Put 2/1/1 white night creature tokens with vigilance onto the battlefield. It's the sort of card you see a lot in white, this sort of generating of tokens. This is Sorcery Speed. You can see because of the number of packs that I open, we're going to see quite a few repeats that are common here. Murder Investigation. Nav Squad Commandos, another white card but had battalion on it, so it's a red-white. Boros Guild card. Righteous Charge. Creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. I've mentioned this a lot of times on these in this series, is, you know, whenever you're looking through a set, there's certain cards which look very familiar to you, because you'll see certain things that are very typical for certain colours. So, you know, things like pump spells in certain colours, but often the costings are messed about with, or there's various caveats that are very like flavourful stuff that makes it relevant to the set. And another sort of card here where we've got this crops up all these sort of fog effects in white, where you know, prevent all damage that would be dealt to target creature this turn. So incredibly specific to a creature. Smites in here, destroy target block creature. Again, something you see in white. Syndicate Ties, another card with Extort on it. So it's basically a bear with Extort. 2/2 for 2. There's a creature which also, its ETB effect is to create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. And then I was surprised to see life gain in white. So we'll move on to blue now. And again, looking out for, you know, cards that are very typical of the colour, plus stuff that's relevant to our sort of guild theme deck. More enchantments. This particular one is a creature enchantment. There's clinging and enemies again with evolve on it. You can see there's the Simic watermark there. So with evolve, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it, on this creature. So you're going to see some cards now once we're looking at blue, and then when we look at green and then blue-green, which care about counters. Cloudfin Raptor, another card with evolve on it, and you can see there's the watermark. Frilled Oculus, blue but with a green activation, and you can see there's the Simic Guild logo again. Gridlock, tap X, target non-land permanents. So blue you get tap down type spells. A card that cares about casting spells. No surprise to see that in blue. And that's a Human Wizard. I think I mentioned earlier we're going to see lots of wizards in this, or cycles of wizards. Hands of Binding. So here we've got Cipher. Tap target creature and opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, Cipher. Then you may exile this card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. So that's the Dimir ability. Oops. Hands of Binding, a few of those. Keymaster Rogue. Yep, that's unblockability is something you see in blue. Last Thoughts, draw a card in Cipher. Leyline Phantom, so you get illusions in blue. For this particular illusion, when it deals damage, you return it to its owner's hand. Metropolis Sprite, blue with a blue activation. Sage Road Denizens, I think I'd mentioned there's cycles of denizens in here. Scatter Arc, counterspell with card draw stapled on. Simic Flak Mage, another card that cares about +1/+1, another wizard as well, Merfolk Wizard. Another one of these in land enchantments that I'd mentioned. Spell Rupture, another counterspell with a caveat attached there. So counter target spell unless its controller plays X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Totally Lost, put target non-land permanent on top of its owner's library. Way of the Thief. So enchanted creature that cares about, or creature enchantment that cares about gates. I think I mentioned that when we were looking through some of the rares. You're going to see various enchantments in here that care about the presence of the particular guild gate or a guild gate. Okay, so we're moving on to black. We've got Balustrade Spy. Quite a few of those. Basilica Screecher. Let's Extort again. Another one of these land enchantments. Contaminated Ground. I pulled quite a few of those. Corpse Blockade. Death's Approach. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -X/-X, where X is the number of creature cards in its controller's graveyard. Devour Flesh. Target player sacrifices the creature, then gains life equal to that creature's toughness. Dying Wish. There's a lot of removal here in black. Got Rats. Got Horrors. You can see this is Dimir specific. Black with a blue activation cost. Another removal spell, Killing Glare. graveyard recursion spell here, Midnight Recovery, sorcery speed. It's also got cipher attached to it as well. Card discard with cipher attached. We've got black, so we have vampires. Life drain, another thing in black that you see. This one also has cipher attached to it. Slade Street Ruffian, card discard stapled onto this. Oh, here's one of these elementals. So it's a smog elemental. It has flying. Creatures with flying your opponent's control get -1/-1. Syndicate Enforcer, another extort card. Undercity Informer. It's a sack outlet. Oh, got one of the rares in here by mistake. Undercity Plague. Target player loses 1 life, discards a card, then sacrifices a permanent. And also has cipher on it, and that's 4 and 2 black. And then white of Precinct 6. Then we have zombies in black. Okay, we're in red now, and not surprising, first up, Act of Treason. This card gets reprinted, a Light in Magic. Gain control of a target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. Bomber Corps, battalion on it. So, even though being in red, it's a Boros card. Ember Beast. Fire Fist Striker, another card with battalion on it. Foundry Street Denizen, another Denizen card, in case this is a Goblin. Ferocious Resistance, Hellraiser Goblin. Homing Lightning. 2 and 2 red, Homing Lightning deals 4 damage to target creature and each other creature with the same name as that creature. So red, we've got direct damage. Mad Cap Skills, another enchantment. Massive Raid. Direct damage. Massive Raid deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of creatures you control. You'll see a number of cards coming up as well that seemingly cared about the amount of creatures we controlled in the different colours. Mugging. Mugging deals 2 damage to target creature. So another thing you see in red in different magic sets is a sort of single red shock type effect, so 2 damage to target creature. That creature can't block this turn. So it is sorcery speed and it can only do damage to a target creature, not a player. But then you've got this extra ability sort of again stapled on here, which target creature can't block this turn. Ripscale Predator. You see there's a lot of this sort of can't be blocked in red and cares about blocking. Blood Rush. So the Blood Rush, if you remember, was the red-green ability. I think that is, yeah, and now just checking here. So that's the Gruul ability there. And you can see we've got the Gruul watermark there. Skinbrand Goblins. Skullcrack. 1 in a red. Players can't gain life this turn. Damage that can't be prevented this turn. Skullcrack deals 3 damage to target player. Structural Collapse. Here's our cycle of this is the red version. So Tin Street Market. 4 in a red. Enchantment Aura. Enchants a land. Enchanted land has tap. Discard a card. Draw a card. Towering Thunderfist. Red with a white activation cost, so no surprise to see the particular relevant watermark there. Phage, no Skank Tail. It's a red card with Blood Rush on it. And then Warmind Infantry, another battalion card. So moving on to green. I should have suggested actually at the top of the video people to basically get a beverage, because this is a long video with all the stuff to go through. Adaptive Snapjaw, so we're moving into green, and obviously we're going to see some evolve cards here that care about +1/+1 counters. Alpha Authority, another aura for enchanting a creature, gives it hexproof, and also cares about blocking. Burst of Strength, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and untap it. So this one cares about counters, but it's not sort of specifically branded up as being a Simic card. And there is a Simic card with Evolve on it. Croconura. It's a crocodile frog. Disciple of the Old Ways. So green with a red activation cost, so we're looking at a Grawl card here. Well, here's Forced Adaptation. So single green, enchant creature, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature, so another card that cares about counters. Greenside Watcher. That untaps the gate. Hindivines, Ivy Street Denizen, another one of the denizen cycles. Miming Slime. So we have oozes in the set. And this particular one, the token is tied in with the greatest power among creatures you control. Naturalizes in here. And again, another card that crops up all over Magic in various sets. It deals with artifacts or enchantments. So you see different artwork on this one for the set. Predator Rapport. Scanclad Charger with Blood Rush on it. Serene Remembrance. Slaughterhorn is has Blood Rush on it. Grawl card. Spire Tracer. This is an interesting card. So single green, 1/1, Spire Tracer can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach. So it isn't a flyer itself, but it just can't be blocked except by creatures flying or reach. Tower Defense, creatures you control get +0/+5 and gain reach until end of turn. Verdant Haven, so here's our land enchantment aura in green, and bringing up the rear in green we have Wasteland Viper, single green, 1/2 with Death Touch and Blood Rush on it. Okay, so keeping with the commons and uncommons, we're now moving on to the actual cards which are, have 2 colour casting costs on them. So we've got the Orzhov cards here that I pulled. So we've got the Cartel Aristocrat, and you can see all of these will have the Orzhov watermark on them. Executioner's Swing, Kingpin's Pet with Extort on it. So you can see that one, it's pretty badly printed there, quite blurry. Oh, here's one of the charms, Orzhov Charm, white black, instant, choose one, return target creature you control with all auras you control attached to it to their owner's hand, or destroy target creature and you lose life equal to its toughness, or return target creature card with converted mana cost 1 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Purge the Profane, it's card discard, and life gain. This is Copa Confessor, Human Cleric with Extort on it, There's one of the guild mages. It's the white-black one with the 2 activated abilities on it. Backing out Apparition, which is a hybrid white-black card. Gift of Volsova, another creature enchantment. Got 3 of those. The results. Now we'll move on to Dimir. So we've got, now we're going to see things with Cipher on it obviously, and they have the Dimir watermark. Call of the Nightwing, there's our Dimir charm. So some blue-black instant, choose one, counter target, sorcery spell or destroy target creature with power 2 or less, or look at the top 3 cards of a target player's library, then put one back and the rest into that player's graveyard. Mortar Strider, got a few of those. Paranoid Delusions, it's got Cipher on it. Psychic Strike, it's a blue-black counter spell with its controller puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So there's mill on there. Coerced Confession, another mill card. Death Cult Rogue, can't be blocked except by rogues. Oh, the nostalgia. Arrows of Justice, deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, 2 red white. Shattering Blow, exile an artifact. Martial Glory, Sky Knight Legionnaire. There's a 2/2 for 3, 1 red white with flying and haste on it. It's got a few of those. Sky Home Guild Mage, so here's the red white Guild Mage. True Fire Paladin. Wojek Halberdiers with battalion on it. Pretty sure when I drafted this set online, I was one particular draft I did red white. Gore Clan Rampager, 2 red green with Blood Rush, so we're going to see the Grawl watermarks on these. Ground Assault. Oh, here's our Grawl charm. So red green instant, choose one. Creatures without flying can't block this turn or gain control of all permanents you own, or Grawl charm deals 3 damage to each creature with flying. Primal Visitation, another enchantment aura. Ruination Worm, it's vanilla 7/6 for 4 red green. Zartar Swine, 3 red green, Blood Rush on it. Pit Fights in here, so this is a hybrid red green mana card. So you've got a fight card in red green. Okay, Simic now. So green blue, Elusive Krasis, it's unblockable, it's got Evolve on it. Hydroform. Target land becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with flying until end of turn. Nimbus Swimmer. And all the Simic watermarks on here. Shamble Shark with Flash and Evolve. There's our Simic Guild Mage, Zamek Guild Mage, green blue 2/2, and the 2 abilities on there. Bioshift, played around with counters. It's our hybrid green blue. Okay, so a few other things as well in our commons and uncommons. We've got some artifacts here, so armoured transport. Oh, that was the other thing. These Keyrunes, of course, were across the sets. So we're going to see here our ones that are specific to the guilds in this set. So we've got Dimir Keyrune. So these were all costed at 3. They tapped for the appropriate colour for the guild. So this one's blue-black. But they also had an activated ability on them. And they, for the relevant colour combination, so this one is blue-black obviously, it became a 2/2 blue and black horror artifact creature. So what they would do is they would basically turn into a appropriate creature for that particular guild. So there's the Gruul one, same thing, and this one for red-green becomes a 3/2 red and green beast artifact creature. There's another. There's a gargoyle there. There's a prophetic prison, which we looked at a foil version of that earlier. Razor tip whip, so we've got an artifact here. It looks like, you know, you almost look at that and think, oh, that should be a piece of equipment, but actually no, it doesn't attach to anything. Just a single generic mana activation cost, tap. Razor whip deals 1 damage to target opponent. There's a piece of equipment, riot gear. Got a Simic Keyrune here, so the green-blue one, and that one for green-blue becomes a 2/3 green and blue crab artifact creature with hexproof until end of turn, and then Skybinder's staff here. And then also what we should find is the gates. So these were lands, or specifically land gate, that fixed for the appropriate guild. So the guild colours. So Orzhov Guild Gate. They all came into battlefield tapped. This one was white black, Dimir blue black, Boros red white, and Simic green blue. So those were all the particular cards that I pulled from the set, just to give you hopefully a really good overview of the card, and you know, the nostalgia side, which is what, you know, obviously this series is all about. So what I'm going to do now is just flip through the intro packs. So the intro decks that they did for these, obviously one for each guild. We'll start off with Orzhov. And I'm just going to go through these, so just to give you an idea of what the deck was about, because by now, of course, we've seen pretty much all the cards. There might be a few rares in here that we haven't seen, but in terms of commons and uncommons, I think we've probably seen you know, quite a lot of the ones from the set, a high proportion anyway. So the Orzhov deck. Orzhov Oppression, white black, no surprise there. So in the intro decks you basically just get 2 rares. So we had and the lead one is a foil in all the decks here. So Treasury Thrall, 4 white black with Extort on it, so whenever you cast a spell you pay white black. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. It can be a super annoying ability if you're on the receiving end of that, and your opponent's really got it set up well. It's interesting. White black, I think, and Extort is an interesting thing to play around with in Commander. If anybody's built a deck that utilizes this in combination with something else, could just be super annoying. Whenever Treasury Thrall attacks, you may return targeted artifact, creature or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand, and it's a 4/4. High Priest of Penance, white black. Whenever High Priest of Penance is dealt damage, you may destroy target non-land permanent, and that's a 1/1. So it'd be interesting to see what we get in this deck. You know, are we going to see stuff that it really is this card just trying to just get back stuff that we may have lost earlier in the game, or is there something clever that it's doing with the graveyard? So we'll see. Anyway, so I think with all of these as well, I think they put the relevant on colour guild mage, but again we'll see. It's been a while since I've opened these decks. Knight of Obligation, it's got Extort on it. Smog Elemental, which is flying opponent's control, -1/-1. Rain of Blades. Dying Wish. Enchant creature you control. When enchanted creature dies, target player uses X life and you gain X life where X is its power. There's a key rune in here. Again, I think the decks all had the appropriate key rune in them. Gift of Orzova. It's enchantment. James Day Tome. So these are all the commons. Sorry, these are all the uncommons first up. Card draw. Blood Reckoning in here. 1000 Lashes. Shadow Alley Denizen. Lots of one-offs. You can see it's a bit like a super variable deck in here. Tormented Soul. So I'm moving on to our commons now. Silvercoat Lion. Basilica Screecher, another card with Extort on it. Basilica Guard, so we're getting more sort of 2s and 3s here. Kingpin's Pet. This is particularly... I remember when I first went on to MTGO, one of the things I did initially is I played quite a bit of Pauper on there. This is going back quite a way. So this would have been around about the time I think this set came out, because I remember building a Pauper Simic deck. But I was playing against an opponent, someone that I think someone actually that I got to know initially through the channel maybe, they were playing this card actually, and I get another it's Extort on it. So yeah, it was a pretty cool card actually. Syndicate Enforcer, another Extort card. Guardian Lions, Zombie Goliath, Executioner's Swing, Murder. So again, what's happening here is they're pulling down from the core set as well. So you can get some stuff like removals going to come in from the core set if it's just better costed maybe, or more appropriate to the deck. It just works better in the deck. Purge the Profane. And again, we're going to see cards from, and at the moment, a lot of these cards are going to be from this particular set, but then we're going to see other stuff from, at the time, sets that were still legal in Standard. Angelic Edict. And so then we've got, I think, just a single Guild Gate in here to fix, and obviously our white-black basic lands there, which were the artwork from Return to Ravnica. So we'll look at the Gruul deck next. I've got so much stuff off camera here. Let's just try and organise this. Yeah, there was a lot of sorting involved in setting this video up. Okay, Gruul Goliath. So this is our red-green deck. Okay, so our two rares. We've got Rubble Hulk, which is our foil. 4 red-green. Creature Elemental. Rubble Hulk's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. It's got Blood Rush on it. 1 red-green. Discard Rubble Hulk. Target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of lands you control, and it's star. There is its power toughness, obviously. Gruul Rage Beast, 5 red-green, 6/6. Creature Beast. Whenever Gruul Rage Beast or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature fights target creature and opponent controls. So we're going to be looking for Blood Rush cards in here. Oh, there's our Guild Mage, our red-green Guild Mage. So these are all our commons. We've got Vaishno's Skank Tail in here with Blood Rush on it, a couple of those. Gore Clan Rampager, Blood Rush and Trample on that. Ripscale Predator, another uncommon. Duskdale Worm. 5 and 2 green, 7/7 with Trample. Alpha Authority. Enchantment Aura. Ground Assault's in here. It deals damage to target creature equal to the number of lands you control. So looks like we've got a deck here that cares about lands. There's our Gruul Keyrune. There's a couple of those. Volcanic Geysers in here from the core set. Foundry Street Denizen. Another core set card, Arbor Elf. So we're moving on to our commons. Skin Brand Goblins, got Blood Rush on it. Disciple of the Old Ways. There's a Gruul card, it's green but it's got a red activation on it. Centaur Corsair. 2 and a green, 3/3 vanilla creature. Slaughterhorn, Blood Rush. Primal Hunt Beast, has hexproof on it. Scanclad Charger. Then we've got Fire Elemental from the core set. Zertar Swine. Ruination Worm. A couple of those. Pit Fight. Predator's Raptor. Verdant Haven. Ranger's Path. And then our single Guildgate in Gruul colours, and then our land based with artwork from Return to Ravnica. So, mountains and forests. With these, one thing, obviously I'm not going through the deck in super detail because this is really just a look back, but as far as I remember, I'm pretty sure I would have unboxed all of these on camera. So yeah, if you wanted to see these unboxed, they're up there in my videos somewhere, all of these. And I know I would have gone through and just talked a little bit about the actual theme of the deck in a bit more detail. Okay, so I would start off with our 2 rares. Consuming Aberration. This one's a bit difficult to read because the guild watermark there, the foiled, because it's a foil one, it's quite prominent. So 3 black red creature horror, star. Consuming Aberration's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyards. Whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a land card and puts those cards into his or her graveyard. Whispering Madness, another rare. 2 blue-black, sorcery. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. It also has Cipher on it. So then you may exile this spell card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. Jace's Phantasm from the core sets in here. Incursion Specialist. White of Precinct 6, so these are all our commons. There's our Guild Mage, our blue-black one. Mind's Eye Drake, another horror in here. Dinrova Horror, sorry. When that enters the battlefield, return target permanent to its owner's hand, then that player discards a card. There's our Keyrune for blue-black, couple of those. Rise from the Greys from the core set, so we got some graveyard shenanigans going on here. Coerced Confession. So blue-black, we're seeing some mill. Welkin Turns in here from the core set. The rat we saw earlier. Sage's Road Denizen. Mortar Strider. Deathcoat Rogue, a couple of those. Vidalcan Entrancer. Palatrade Spy, which has flying on it. Death's Approach. Paranoid Delusions. Last Thoughts. Midnight Recovery. Grisly Spectacles in here. Totally Lost. you've got some blue bounce stuff going on here as well. So you've got black removal, blue bounce, support cards, and some life loss. Dimir Guildgate there for blue-black fixing, and then our islands and our swamps. It's what I like about these sort of two colour sets, particularly where you've got real super strong themes, is when you look at these you go, oh yeah, I really want to build around that. Certain I don't know, combinations of abilities and themes which do really inspire the sort of deck building process, I think. So Foundry Champion, so this is our lead card, 4 red-white Boris Battalion deck here. So yeah, 4 red-white, 4/4, creature elemental soldier. When Foundry Champion enters the battlefield, it deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of creatures you control. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading because of the foil watermark. So red Foundry Champion gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and white Foundry Champion gets +0/+1 until end of turn. Firemane Avenger is in here. So 2 red-white, 3/3 creature angel with flying and battalion. Whenever Firemane Angel, sorry, I keep saying Firemane Angel, Firemane Avenger, and at least 2 other creatures attack, Firemane Avenger deals 3 damage to target creature or player, and you gain 3 life. So moving to our uncommons here, Boris Elite, Fire Fist Striker. There's our Guild Mage for red-white. Ordrune Veteran with battalion on it. Fortress Cyclops. Our Keyrune for Boros. Arrows of Justice. Righteous Charge. Creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. Mark for Death. Target creature an opponent controls blocks this turn if able. Untap that creature. Other creatures that player controls can't block this turn. Warclad Mastiff, so a common from the core set. Bomber Core, Daring Skyjack, a couple of those. Wildjack Halberdiers, 3 of those. Ember Beast, Warmind Infantry, Armoured Transports in here, Core Street Denizen, Sky Knight Legionnaire. And this is looking very much like the red-white deck that I drafted. Canyon Minotaur. Obviously stuff from the core set. Wouldn't be in a draft for this set. Mugging. Shielded Passage. Aerial Maneuver. Act of Treason's in here, and then our Guildgate for red-white, and our mountains and plains. I'm actually trying to remember with at this time when they had these sets on MTGO that you could do something interesting. I don't think it's been kept anymore, which is you could actually draft the set what I call standalone. So and I just can't remember. Someone might be able to refresh my memory because I never drafted this in paper. And I'm trying to remember in paper whether this was drafted with Return to Ravnica, so like 2 packs and 1 either way round, or whether it was drafted standalone in paper. But I'm pretty sure online you could do it either way, but if anybody wants to sort of correct me, that would be great. So our blue-green intro deck, a Simic Synthesis. This is another favourite combination of mine. So Fathom Mage, 2 green blue with Evolve. So 1/1, whenever a +1/+1 counter is placed on Fathom Mage, you may draw a card. And our other rare is Unexpected Results. 2 green blue, sorcery, shuffle your library, then reveal the top card. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield and return unexpected results to its owner's hand. Chronomaton from the core set was in here, so this played around with counters. There's our green-blue Guild Mage. Elusive Krasis, Crown Ceratok, Sapphire Drake's in here, Merfolk of the Depths, Tower Defense, Shindivines, there's our Keyrune for Simic, Sleep from the core set, Urban Evolution, Kraken Hatchling from the core set, Cloudfin Raptor, Frilled Oculus, Shamble Shark with Evolve on it. So with Evolve mechanic, just to remind you, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Croconoa with Reach and Evolve, Drakewing Krasis, Ivy Lane Denizen, Leyline Phantom, Adaptive Snapjaw, and then we've got an enchantment here, Forced Adaptation, Bioshift's in here, Encrusted in here from the core set, and there's our Simic Guildgate and our islands and forests. So there we have the rather long nostalgic run through of stuff that I have for Gatecrash. So that came out, as I said, February the 1st. So the second bit now, which is a lot less stuff to go through, is the dual deck that came out in this particular quarter. So they stick out or they were till they've now. I think that the last dual deck is coming up soon, but during its long and illustrious life, I do really enjoy the dual decks. They basically do 2 a year. So this particular pair was a Planeswalker themed set of dual decks. So we have Sorin versus Tibalt, but they also had this sort of subtitle: Hunt and Feed and Torment and Agonize. So March 15th, these were $19.99 for the decks. It's the 11th dual deck. Sorin is white-black, as you can see from the top of the deck. I think these come with tokens. Yep, this one's got spirit tokens in it. So there's a couple of spirit tokens before we get onto the deck, and I'm going to flag up here. With dual decks as well, you get a lot more rares in them than with say an intro deck. So our lead card is Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. No surprise there. 2 white-black Planeswalker Sorin. +1, put a 1/1 black vampire creature token with lifelink onto the battlefield. -2, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +1/+0. And the -6 is destroy up to 3 target creatures and or other Planeswalkers. Return each card put into a graveyard this way to the battlefield under your control. And it has 3 loyalty. Twilight Drover, 2 and a white creature spirit, 1/1. Whenever a creature token leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Twilight Drover. 2 and a white activation. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Twilight Drover. Put 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. Ancient Craving, 3 and a black sorcery. You draw 3 cards and you lose 3 life. Now remember, with these dual decks, the cards from all over Magic, but what they do is obviously put them in the most recent border, and they put a special set logo on there. Butcher of Malakir, 5 and 2 black. Creature vampire warrior 5/4 flying. Whenever Butcher of Malakir does, whenever Butcher of Malakir or another creature your opponent dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. We've got Death Grasp in the deck. X white black sorcery. Death Grasp deals X damage to target creature or player. You gain X life. Field of Souls 2 white. Enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So we'll now move on to our lower rarity cards. We've got Wall of Omens in here, Gatekeeper of Malakir, Fiend Hunter, Vampire Nighthawk, Mausoleum Guard, Phantom General, Vampire Outcasts, Revenant Patriarch. Looks like Spirits and Vampires is heavily dominant in this deck. Singia Vampire from way back. Decompose, Urge to Feed, Zealous Persecution, Lingering Souls, flashback on it, Mortify, Spectral Procession, lots of cards here generating tokens, Doom Traveller, Vampire Lacerator, Child of Nights in here, Dusk Hunter Black Bat, which has Bloodthirst on it, Mesmeric Fiend, Blood Rage Vampire, loads of one-offs in this deck. With the dual decks, the other thing is what they're aiming for is maximum variance here. So each game can be very different from the previous game. So Vampire's Bite, Sorin's Thirst. There's an unmake in here. Mark of the Vampire. That's the classic cards in this one. Absorb Viz. Okay, so moving on to our mana fixing. We have a Tainted Field, so we tap it for colourless mana, and then tap, add white or blue to your mana pool. Activate this ability only if you control a swamp. So we've got a couple of those. We've got a couple of Evolving Wilds as well, so fetch lands that fetch out basic lands, which are going to help us fix our 2-colour mana here. And then we have swamps. Looks like the artwork from this is from Innistrad, I believe. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Not sure where the planes are from, but okay, so there's our Sorin deck. Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, as our lead card. So let's have a look at Tibalt. Torment and Agonize, apparently. Okay, Tibalt the Fiend Blooded. So I was trying to have a problem with the Tibalt. It sounds like a cat. Tibalt the cat. Tibalt the Fiend Blooded. Actually, that does sound like a cat. 2 red, 2 loyalty. So its ability is +1, draw a card, then discard a card at random. -4, Tibalt the Fiend Blooded deals damage equal to the number of cards its target players. Hang on. So I'm moving trouble. It's the foiling is getting difficult to read again. Tibalt the Fiend Blooded deals damage equal to the number of cards in target player's hand to that player. And the -6 is gain control of all creatures until end of turn. Untap them, then gain haste until end of turn. They gain haste until end of turn. Wow, it's difficult to read. Breaking points. 1 and 2 red. Sorcery, any player may have breaking point, deal 6 damage to him or her. If no one does, destroy all creatures. Creatures destroyed this way can't be regenerated. Hellrider, 2 and 2 red. Creature devil with haste. Whenever a creature you control attacks, Hellrider deals 1 damage to defending player. It's a 3/3. Lavaborn Muse, 3 and a red. Creature spirit. the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 2 or fewer cards in hand, Laughable Muse deals 3 damage to him or her. Devil's Play, X and a red. Sorcery, Devil's Play deals X damage to target creature or player with flashback on it. X and 3 red. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. Sulphuric Vortex. 1 and 2 red enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Sulphuric Vortex deals 2 damage to that player. Scorched Rusalka, single red, creature spirit. Red, sacrifice creature. Scorched Rusalka deals 1 damage to target player. So we've got a direct damage theme in here. Reassembling Skeletons in here. So we've moved on to our uncommons now. Hellspark Elemental, it's got Unearth in it, on it. A couple of those. Shambling Remains, black, red and Unearth. Skursdag Cultist, Corpse Connoisseur, Scourge Devil, Gang of Devils, Pyroclasm. You can see the direct damage sort of mounting up in this deck. And there's flashback going on here. Recoup, Browbeat, a couple of those. Flame Javelin. Interesting hybrid mana costs on here. So you can see here it's 2 red, 2 red, 2 red. So if you happen to have 3 red mana out, then great, you're just going to pay for that. But if you don't, things can get a little bit more expensive depending on how much of the particular mana you have out. So if you only had black mana out, then you're going to have to pay 6 to cast this, but then there's all sorts of variations in between. Okay, Flame Javelin, Torrent of Souls, Goblin Arsonist is in here, Ashmouth Hound, a couple of those, Vizian Stinger, a couple of those. I'm going to be pretty sorry to see these the dual decks go. The only good thing is over the years I managed to sort of collect 1 of each, so that's a good thing. Coal Stoker, Mad Prophet, Bump in the Nights in here with a red flashback cost. Blazing Salvo, Faithless Looting. It's definitely a burn 'em out deck here. Flame Slash, Geist Flame, Terminate's in here. Strangling Soot is in here. Lightning is in here. Oh, that's one of my favourite cards. 1 and black, red, sorcery. Lightning deals 3 damage to target player. That player discards 2 cards. We've got a Arkham. Couple of. No, this is where the mana base gets interesting in this deck. So we've got a couple of Arkham Refuges. So these come into the battlefield tapped, and they enter the battlefield, and you gain 1 life. Black, red, and then we've got the good old Rakdos Carnarium. So this comes from the original Ravnica block. I can't remember which particular set, because they staggered out the guilds over the 3 sets instead of 2 like they've done in Return to Ravnica. So this enters the battlefield tapped, but when Rakdos Carnarium enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand. But once this gets up and running, you can tap it for black, red. So there's quite a heavy cost in getting this into play. You're tapping it, you're bouncing one of your other lands. The nice thing with this is, obviously it's not, well, actually I'll give you an example with this deck. This obviously works better with cards that have a land that has a more, what's the word I'm looking for, impactful ETB effect. But the nice thing with these bounce lands that came from the original Ravnica block is there is that very clever interaction. So you can re-trigger ETBs on lands. So, if this was in play, I could bounce this one out using this card and then replay it later and gain life in this particular instance. But, there's other land cards in the history of Magic which have quite a variety of ETB effects on them. So we've got a couple of Rakdos Carnariums. and then we move on to our regular basic lands here. So there's our reds, and we've got a few blacks here as well on there. Obviously helps with some of the cards you saw. We had one particular card where it's like triple red, and that's that's something you really need to think about when you're playing like two colour decks. It gets problematic when you've got cards where there's more than one more than one of a single colour in the casting cost. And you've probably seen cards throughout Magic's history where there's real like high number of these. So we've got 2 red here in this deck. I think the highest, but it was a hybrid mana card, so there were sort of outs, but again for a higher cost of having 3 reds in there. And that's a real issue when you're playing any deck where there's more than 2 colours, about whether you're not going to have enough mana of that particular card to cast the card. And so in this particular deck, in addition to the fixing, obviously these seems to be biased more towards red mana base here. So you've got a higher chance that you're gonna get red basic land out than non-red. Okay, so there we have it. That's the event deck that came out on, March the 15th for 1999, the 11th dual deck. Sorin, which was white-black, versus Tibalt, which was red-black. Okay, so there we have it for this morning's Saturday morning nostalgia. The year was 2013. This was Series 4, Episode 1 of our ongoing themed series, or group of series. So what I might do, and these will come out regularly again, I might decide to alternate these, but so either they're going to come out every other week now, or they will come out every week. I just need to decide based around my sort of workload and other projects that I'm working on. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.